traders, Raghee here, and in this update I want to share with you one of my favorite ways to use futures contracts to look at what I'll call proxies. In other words, what are alternative, or I won't even say supplemental, but sometimes I will let some ETFs and alternative symbols supplant the setup in a futures contract. So one really easy example of that is copper. Sometimes copper can be pricey for an overnight trade, but as copper is heading down to the support here of the 200 propulsion, I also know that if I have a buy in copper, there's a pretty darn good chance I have a setup in Freeport-McMoRan. Now, I would use Freeport-McMoRan as an alternative, supplanting the setup in copper, or I can take a trade in both. But the one major thing that Freeport-McMoRan has going for it is it's a much better structure of the overall market. More green grab candles, green over green JT multi, as opposed to what would amount to an oversold buy off the 200, which by the way has worked pretty good in copper. So the proxy here is Freeport-McMoRan. Another symbol that I've been really interested in, and we've talked about this in the past, is our dollar buys. Now, obviously, not everything always is going to be weaker than the strong dollar. And while I like the idea of playing dollar to the upside, I can also think about, well, what would be an alternative? Maybe not a replacement, but in this case, it would be an additional setup. And one of the few currencies that are actually stronger than the US dollar right now is the Canadian dollar. But one of the things that I really like, as we see Canadian dollar and US dollar sort of duke it out, I like Canada. So you might say, well, Rog, does this really have to do with the Canadian dollar? No, it's really a matter of I'm looking at the 6C futures contract. And then as I'm looking at this, I'm asking myself, well, what other related markets? I have Canada itself. We have crude oil, which is oftentimes very related to the Canadian dollar because the Canadian dollar is a COMDOL based on, in large part, the value of crude. Look at EWC. This is the MSCI iShares for Canada. Gorgeous double green. Well, just like I would look to buy the dip on some of the US indices, I can definitely do that on EWC. And this really turns into, again, not a futures trade per se, but related to, because this is what I love about futures trading. You're looking at all the indices and the actual grocery store commodities and metals and energies and treasuries. And it does give you a lot of insight into other trades that might form. So there's EWC, as I'm looking at what's going on in the Canadian economy. There's FXC, as I'm looking at what's going on in copper. And then it doesn't mean that I don't want to continue to buy the dollar index on dips. Now, one of the things that a lot of traders ask me is if we're looking at the dollar index on a dip, what is that going to cost me? What is that going to be to take as an overnight trade? And then what if I don't have the access, because I'm not paying the, $1.45, $1.25 for the ICE, and I don't want to pony up $2,000 per contract for the DX? What's my alternative? Well, this is a straight up alternative where I'm looking at dollar index and I want to be long, but I can use the UUP calls on dips, or I can use the FXE puts on rips to take advantage of that narrative. So I hope this gives you not just, what does futures trading give me the advantage of? And I hope these are a few ways that if you're coming from a stock trading background, an options trading background, interest in ETFs, and say, well, what are futures traders going to help me find? This is what it helps me to do. And I hope that resonates, and that you can think about those connective threads in these markets. And I love trading markets that are connected. It makes it a whole lot easier to broaden what I'm willing to do and understand why certain markets are going to move the way they're going to move. Hope that helps. I'll see you all in the next update. Hey traders, Raghee from Simpler Trading. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like and a comment below. And remember, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll get notified of the next update. And when you're ready to join me for live trading, be sure to head on over to simplertrading.com. I'll see you in the next update.